The views expressed in the following podcast contain neither medical advice nor financial advice.
Vaccinate your kids.
They do not reflect the views of our employers, spouses, friends, colleagues, or anyone claiming to represent us.
Invest in Bigfoot Project Investments, Inc.
Bigfoot Project Investments, Inc.
Actually, that is a real thing. Publicly traded company founded to document the existence of the legendary creature Bigfoot.
Seriously?
They're going to gold, man.
You know, now might be a good time to reiterate that this show does not give financial advice, and any conversation that sounds like it is merely an alcohol-fueled rant.
Holy crap. These people were worth $10 billion US back in the day.
Your mileage may vary. Welcome to Two and Change, a Canadian podcast where people from all different backgrounds get together to discuss today's important topics over a drink.
On today's show, we discuss who's responsible when you get bad financial advice.
But first, we discuss stupid people. I mean the anti-vaxxer movement.
Why is everyone staring at me?
Well, go ahead.
Go ahead, what?
You know, your whole libertarian thing.
Not really getting what you're trying to say.
Oh, you know how forcing people to vaccinate their children is government overreach or something silly.
Yeah, or how vaccination should be a choice left up to the free market.
No. I actually think a robust government-funded public vaccination program is a good thing.
Yeah, right. And we should all move to Venezuela with all the other crazy socialists, right? Good one, Mike.
No. I support mandatory vaccination. It's entirely consistent with the libertarian philosophy of the government providing for the common defense of life and property. Don't you read those articles I send you?
Yes, I do.
Oh, yeah, right. Like that one article on the thing with the thing. That one was good. Yeah, I like that one.
You don't read them, do you?
Of course, like the last one. It was great.
Okay, what was it about?
You know, it's the one thing. Yeah, it's the thing. Yeah.
Thing.
I'll wait.
Oh, look, we're out of intro music.
Idiots.
Hey, I'm Josh and I'm drinking Scotch.
Glenn.
Welcome to Two and Change.
Glenn McAdams. Glenn McAdams? Is that what it is? Glenn McAdams. 10 years.
Rachel McAdams.
Rachel McAdams?
Rachel
She-
McAdams, 10-year Scotch.
I appreciated her work
Sold
in
her a
Doctor
phone?
Strange from the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I sold her a cell phone.
You did not.
I did.
She's from around here.
She
St.
is,
Thomas. I
Really?
sold her a cell phone when I managed to.
she's good at what she does.
So you're saying you have her number?
She came in pajamas.
in pajamas.
I recognized that ass before Red Eye knew what the fuck Red Eye was.
Okay, fair enough. I appreciated her work in Doctor Strange. And this is Mike. I am drinking also a 10-year-old Glenn McAdams single malt Scotch, a beautiful Scotch that Josh has bought for the podcast as penance for his absence some time ago.
And this is Tim. I switched back to Signal Hill with a little bit of club soda. And of course, Matt is joining us on the show. Say hello.
Hello, hello.
Who apparently sold Rachel McAdams a cell phone.
Yeah.
Had no idea.
Amongst others.
Amongst others.
Yeah.
You sold other
God.
people's cell phones as
There's
well?
literally a few unknown,
Ryan
unknown
Gosling.
names.
Did you sell Justin Bieber a cell phone?
Yeah. I
No.
Neither
He didn't.
say nor confirm that.
Did he come in and say, "What do you mean?"
He may or may not have a phone.
There it is. Fair enough. Yeah. Anyway, this is the show where basically three Canadian drinking buddies and occasionally a guest who may or may not have wild opinions joins us, where we discuss different political opinions and we end the show as friends, mostly because we've had alcohol. Even though most of us are wrong by the time we get to the end of it. Usually
Exactly.
That's the idea.
And we're discussing something.
What are we discussing
What are we
tonight,
discussing,
Josh?
Tim?
You don't have the sheet open, do you?
No, I absolutely do not. So
Anti-vaxxers.
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 Yeah.
Anti-vax-
Anti-vaxxers.
You have so little to do in the show, Josh.
You had one job.
Well, I
One
just didn't know
job.
which one we were talking about: stupid people or business people who can also be stupid.
Anti-vaxxers. So,
Anti-vaxxers.
in deference to the script,
In vas deference, yes.
in vast deference to the script. If you didn't hear the last bonus, go listen to it. In vast deference to the last
do it.
script, what I can tell you is that while I appreciate the work the vaccination does, I don't actually believe in mandatory vaccination.
Get the fuck out of my house.
I don't.
I'm not. Get the fuck out.
Because of
Well,
the
hold on. When
the-
we're talking mandatory vaccination, what is the barriers on that?
I believe that you have the right as a society to do things like if you don't get vaccinated, don't come to our public school. I believe in that. That's totally fine. But the idea of the government saying thou shalt vaccinate their children, that's the government taking on an authority that should be reserved
What if
parentally.
the government steps in and says thou shalt not at a certain point? X, 3 kids, 4 kids, beyond.
Well, that's exactly why. Reasons like that are exactly why I don't like the government being so directly involved in
all
parental
that does
authority.
is cripple the system.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
Here's the thing.
and keep
though.
in mind, this topic isn't you on trial.
You know,
No, it's not.
It is. So here,
it is. Josh says it is.
100%. Everything you say is
And I
literally recorded.
I want to say here that before we get even started in this conversation, I do not believe that vaccines cause autism or anything stupid like that. I believe that vaccines are one of the most amazing things science has given us in the 20th century,
And you vaccinate your children.
and I do vaccinate my children. I do. There was a little bit of soul searching on the part of my wife and I, not because of the risk of autism, which there is none, but because of the use of MRC5 cells, which my wife and I both have a moral objection to. But we still did vaccinate despite that.
For those that don't know.
So MRC5 cells are cells that, so when you make a vaccine, you can use primate cells, you can use bovine cells. MRC5 cells are cells that are harvested from aborted fetal tissue. So because of our stance on abortion,
You got to dumb it down further.
so aborted fetal tissue, so human fetuses that have been aborted because the parents didn't want them for whatever reason.
Basically,
Those
jumbo
fetuses-
shrimp.
Yeah, those fetuses are
love
harvested
I
for
love
their
shrimp,
cells and used to culture vaccines.
Okay, but they're not being aborted for the purpose of making vaccines.
Which is exactly why my wife and I ultimately ended up deciding to go ahead and vaccinate anyway. But there was some soul searching
were
beforehand.
you two vaccinated?
We were.
So how come your parents didn't have the same problem?
They didn't know.
Really?
They didn't know. Although I like to think
Because
that
the
if my
mommy
parents-
bloggers hadn't gotten a hold of the internet. That's what
It
you're
was
saying.
the 80s. No, the mommy bloggers hadn't got a hold of it yet. So what I can tell you now, but here's the thing. When
Because they called the goddamn mommy
all the
bloggers.
cracked cocaine.
when my wife and I were going through our soul searching, we did talk to my parents and her parents about it. And what I can tell you is that both of them also said exactly what you said. They weren't aborted for their cells. They were aborted because they were aborted, and then they were used for vaccination
My
purposes.
understanding of vaccines, I don't know why they'd be using this, and I challenge that science. I don't have enough to back it up, so I won't go down that road.
It's
But-
not all vaccines, just some of them.
So, anyways,
Hashtag null
for me,
vaccine.
for me,
Hashtag.
a cell's a cell. But
Yep.
so regardless of that fact,
Mandatory abortions.
the whole thing of, because we'll come back to your point though of
My
We'll
point
come back
of,
to your
of
point.
whether the government has the right to demand it.
yes,
Go
yes.
for it.
And so here's the thing: like, does the government have the right to demand that you can't murder someone?
Yes.
Okay, so in that same instance, when you vaccinate your child,
Yes.
the success of vaccination is not based on the one child. It's herd immunization.
Yes, it is.
So the bulk of people being immunizes the entire
The whole,
community.
especially for
And-
children who, for whatever reason, cannot get the vaccine.
And Josh, don't forget, he is not anti-vaccine.
No, I get this.
Yeah.
So
and don't get me wrong.
So
my
then
younger,
my larger point though is
Yeah.
then would it not be morally incumbent upon the government to?
and this is where I can actually speak with some personal authority, if you will. My younger sister, which if God blesses this podcast, she will one day be on this podcast. My younger sister could not get the whooping cough vaccine because she had a vaccination related
Vaccine injury.
Exactly, yeah.
Perfect.
So she was not able to get the vaccine, and there were people in our church who were like, "I'm not getting the whooping cough vaccination," and my mother tore into those people.
Good.
Like they were
as she should.
because she basically made it very clear, if your kid gets my daughter sick with whooping cough and she dies, I will sue your ass because you did not vaccinate your children. And
Yep.
that was exactly how my mother approached it. So my parents were vehemently pro-vaccine. They passed that science on to me. And while I can concede that my wife and I did soul search when we discovered that MRC5 cells were used to culture certain vaccines unnecessarily because bovine cells would work just fine. We still vaccinated our children because we ultimately ended up at the fact that, these MRC5 cells were not harvested for vaccines. They were harvested after the fact. That's where my wife and I landed on. So even though my wife and I are unapologetically pro-life, we did still vaccinate our kids despite that. And it's worth noting, MRC5 cells, they're not just used in vaccines. They're used in cosmetics. They're used in all kinds of different products around the world.
Wait, you're saying there's aborted fetal cells in cosmetics?
Yes. MRC5 cells. Google it. It's a real thing.
I'm going to have to see your citations on that one.
Google it.
There's
Google it.
abortions in cosmetics.
There are MRC5 cells in cosmetics. This is a real thing.
No. MRC5 cells
Are aborted fetal tissue.
non-cloned.
Universally.
Non-cloned.
Even if they were
See,
cloned?
Yeah,
that's
no.
still-
No. That's a big difference. Cloned cells versus actual aborted fetal cells.
So this is coming up in a future podcast as well. We're going to talk about cloning fetuses and the bioethics that goes along with that.
No. These are two very different things.
Not necessarily.
Yes,
MRC5
they
cells
are.
are
Yes,
universally
they are.
referred to. And MRC5 cells
I
are
think Matt's falling
universally
asleep.
harvested from aborted fetal tissue. MRC5 cells are harvested there, and
You're saying
I think you just harvested our listeners.
So MRC5 cells, which are best understood as aborted fetal tissue.
Curl up the
So
fetal
look, here's my thing with anti-vaxxers.
I'm
Right?
listening.
This is where we laugh about the libertarian logic and everything, but
Yeah.
the reality is that this is the definition of the community's needs outweighing the needs or the desires of the individual.
And I am pro-vaccine. I am.
You are pro-vaccine.
I am
agree.
pro-vaccine. Yep.
What would you say to, I don't know, like I said, you're not on trial here, but what would you say to the individual libertarian who chooses not to vaccinate their child because this is their choice
All right, I got it
versus the good of the community?
And I would say that parental rights must outweigh government rights. But nothing stopping these people when they turn 18 from getting vaccines on their own.
I'm still pretty certain though that you don't have a right to be
A lot of
stupid.
damage you can do until you turn 18.
I'm starting to wonder if you have a right to be stupid though, because
You do.
like essential
People have a right
oils,
to be stupid.
essential oils do not cure measles.
They do not.
Like I'm sorry, like you can
don't.
put all the
Vaccines do not
lavender
cause
oil you
autism.
want.
But people do have a right to be stupid. That's exactly the point.
Yeah, but their stupid shouldn't kill my child.
Have you rubbed those oils clockwise in the right amounts that they've
Oh,
specified
right,
in the
right.
instructions?
Yeah.
During a
That's
full
where
moon.
I went wrong.
During a full moon, remember. That's
But,
important.
obviously, there's something that you're missing. not
While
they're
chanting
missing.
the mantra. That's important.
During my menstrual
Hey,
cycle, which
it's
I don't
very
have.
easy.
You know
Yeah.
what though?
Steps 1 through 3.
Essential oils, man, they're smart in some ways. The people who sell those, the profit margins on those are fucking
Oh, it's
enormous.
ridiculous. Yeah.
Hey, do you put on deodorant? They
Yeah.
all made margins on smell.
Yeah,
There it is.
This is true.
There it is.
It's
It
so
is.
much more though on essential oils.
Fact.
Sandalwood
Oh, it's
oil is like
ridiculous.
$90 for a thing. It costs like $3 to make.
Oh, it's insane. It's
$87
stupid.
dollar
And it's a
profit
good
margin.
base
That's
in a
like,
beard oil.
That's
I don't
right.
know how many percent. That's like 1,000%.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
All right, as we're wrapping up to the break here,
Yeah.
quick question for everybody.
I'm listening.
So, vaccines.
Yes.
Should they be mandatory?
I feel like mandatory is a bit of a weird word because I think they should be mandatory as in if you don't, parents go to jail? No. Should they be mandatory as in if you don't, your children are not welcome at public school? Sure.
Okay, Matt, what do you think?
I feel like that's a very broad category question. Yes, some should be mandatory. Should all no.
What do you
Okay.
mean by some?
If it's going to affect or carry to the next, yes, mandatory. If it's only for yourself, no.
But the whole point with vaccines is that it doesn't just affect you; it affects everybody, though.
But a third, let's say, of the vaccinations that a child will get or we get don't affect others, is to prevent the continuation of things that could happen.
So chickenpox, for example, not universally fatal, and it is now something that we vaccinate for, but I never got it when I was a kid because it wasn't available when I was a kid.
And what's the next step? What's the next step as an adult to the chickenpox?
Right.
The shingles.
Shingles, yeah.
All right. Josh?
Which can be done. I'm pretty hardline on this. It's one of the few things I am very hardline on in my life. You know what? There might be one or two vaccines where there may not be necessary, but for the most part, yeah, I'm pretty much like, you don't vaccinate your children, you go to fucking jail. Like, I'm like hard old school on that.
Which, by the way, as a parent of an autistic child, I appreciate your stance on that, even though I disagree with it. Because there's a lot of people who have autistic children who are like, the vaccines did it, which, I hate those people.
No, fuck you.
Yeah.
That's not science.
I agree, but I don't think I'd go as far as say as go to jail.
Oh, it could be
Neither
like,
would I.
It could
Neither
be
would
like
I.
fancy.
no,
like,
just
think
pin your
it's-
child down and vaccinate them.
I think it's very simple. You, as an adult, as a parent, should care for your child.
Yeah.
And they should have, you should want the necessary steps for them to not potentially run into issues or problems with it.
Yeah.
Well, they're stupid. So how do you regulate?
Okay, on that
don't.
note, we're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we will talk about our next topic, which is going to be who's responsible when people give bad financial advice. Anyway, we'll be right back. You're listening to Two and Change, and if you're enjoying the show...
Sorry, Tim. As your financial advisor, we have to liquidate the podcast.
What about those investments to make sure it would stay funded?
I have some bad news and worse news. Which would you like to hear first?
Well, the bad news...
All your money will be gone in 24 hours.
What the hell? Well, okay, what's the worst news?
I should have told you yesterday.
Seriously, all my money's gone?
No, it's not gone. It's just with someone else.
Check us out while you still can at twoandchange.ca, where you can like the show, leave a comment, and even read our blog while you still can.
All right. Welcome back to the second half of the show. So, guys, you know what time it is?
It's weekly what?
Weekly What the Time! All right, listeners, so you know how this works. We take the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from the week and compile it here for you, the listener, so you don't have to search it on the wacky world of the internet. So, starting off, look up in the sky. It's a bird, it's a plane, it's a bored pilot drawing dicks in the sky.
Of course it is.
According to Gizmondo, a pilot in Adelaide, Australia, during a training flight that took a route, drew out the words, "I'm bored," which could only be detected by the flight tracker, followed by two dicks and balls. Now, it's important to note that this was a pilot in a populated area, because I'd hate to see what kind of fancy flying a bush pilot would have to do.
Hopefully, he was adequately compensated for his flight.
See, bush pilot, because
Bush
of
pilot.
human.
Yeah.
Because a lot of hair.
In other news, Florida student, good old Florida. Man, we should just change this to what the fuck Florida. Anyways, was arrested for refusing to pledge allegiance
To the flag.
to the flag.
Of the United States of America.
For our listeners who don't know, it is common practice in the U.S. in every school to stand once a day, hand over heart, and swear a loyalty oath to dear leader.
Josh, I think you're thinking of North Korea.
Well, anyways, according to the New York Times, when an 11-year-old student refused to stand because he believes the flag represents racism, the substitute teacher advised him he should find another place to live. The African-American student, who I'll stress again is 11, advised they brought me here. Things spiraled out of control, and the police were
Colin Kaepernick.
right, and the police were called. Again, stressing this is an 11-year-old kid that was arrested. Charges were dropped, and the substitute teacher is no longer invited to teach again in the school. I love this kid.
Hey, classy Florida.
They brought me here, bitch.
It's like telling an 11-year-old, well, you don't like it, go home. 1, I'm 11.
Exactly.
Where am I supposed to go?
I love the reaction to that substitute teacher. That's amazing. Well, in an attempt to steal Florida's crown for general ass hattery, Texas man shot himself in the stomach while spinning a gun on his finger at his daughter's birthday party. According to Global News, the man was attempting to perform a party trick at his 16-year-old daughter's birthday party when he accidentally discharged the weapon right into his stomach. Apparently, everything is bigger in Texas except the safety switch. Actually, it's worth noting a listener sent us that story. Appreciate you, John, for sending that to us.
Yes, thank you, John. You win two and change points.
Yeah, 2 and change fake internet points.
Which you can't redeem only on Groundhog Day every other third year.
0.01 cent cash value.
That's exactly it.
No.
Return St. Patrick.
All right, well, that's it for this weekly's What the Fuck. If you enjoy the segment, please continue to send submissions to twoandchange.ca, our website, or also find us on Facebook or Twitter.
My plan is to bring John on the show as a guest at one point.
Hasn't he already been?
No, he hasn't been yet.
Oh, we should do that sometime.
We should do that sometime.
Anyway, so our second topic tonight, we're talking about... what are we talking about?
Bad financial advice.
Bad financial advice.
So I heard...
Like Bigfoot, Project Investments Inc.
Yes.
For example.
Okay, so I
Or
saw...
investing all your money in cannabis.
Hey-o.
So I read on CBC
Not
that apparently...
wrong.
You know, on the radio sometimes you
Yeah.
hear these ads that are like, "Oh, it's the investment hour with blah blah blah," where it's
Right.
really just paid advertising.
Yes,
right?
it is, yeah.
So apparently, there's this paid advertising piece that people apparently mistook for actual real financial
Advice instead of an ad, yeah.
So apparently, people invested money in these people, and it turns out these people are completely full of shit. So they're turning around, suing the radio station, saying they shouldn't put these people on the air to begin with because they're full of shit.
I'm going to go with no. Bad lawsuit, and
It's a bad lawsuit, but the point is that when financial advice goes bad, should the advisor be blamed? Should the who gets the blame here?
the investor. Do your own frickin' homework and invest in your own investment opportunities.
So let's look at something that's in the news right now in Canada.
Yep.
An older woman out west, late 70s, purchases a couple new vehicles,
Yep.
blames dealership and the salesman. Who made the purchase? Who signed on the bottom dotted line?
This is the article where she bought the vehicles and then later on says, I don't want these vehicles.
She bought a vehicle, went back after the fact and said, I can't afford it. And on her way back, repurchased another vehicle.
Are you kidding me?
Sorry, who's the dummy?
Is she sane?
Who?
Like, if she's sane,
77 years old, and
Unless she has been declared medically incompetent
which
to make
she
decisions,
has not. Otherwise, she wouldn't have signing authority.
then she's on the hook for it. Her bad.
Exactly
I
my
agree.
point. Now, Canada has put 16 charges forward on the dealership, the dealer principal,
you gotta
the
be kidding
salesman,
me.
the
No,
GM.
if they did-
all of which on
Look,
them.
if they did something illegal,
Which they- sounds like they didn't.
Well, it's like, I mean, let them investigate, and if they did something illegal,
On the
throw the book at them.
on the
but
which I agree with. On the surface, she made an ill-advised purchase
Yeah.
without knowing her financials.
Right.
Period.
Yeah.
there's
probably
gotta be
sounds
more-
like her
16
kids.
16
And that's-
charges. There's got to be something more to this story.
That's on her.
You're spreading 16 charges across 4 people.
Still, that's a to do charges
4
against
charges
a dealership. I've seen them get away with some pretty shady shit.
Yeah.
like they must have done something messed up.
It's OMVIC. OMVIC is half those charges, so it's the body that
Okay.
that dictates that,
Omvic
not
is
the
just a
Canadian
scam
government.
most of the time, anyways.
But the bottom line is if you're gonna make a purchase,
Yeah.
then you need to be conscious of what you're purchasing and make sure you can afford that.
And you know
purchase.
what? We have consumer protection laws already in Canada. She had 10 days,
Which-
according to Canadian law, to return the rotten vehicle and get her money back.
Doesn't
true?
matter what you sign, how much it is, you do 100%, and I agree with that 100%. But be conscious of your decisions.
Yeah.
now, here's an interesting thing, though. So there's a concept called fiduciary.
Yes.
So is an advisor, so let's say, I mean, 3 of us at this table have had the job where
Yeah.
we go to someone's house.
Yep.
And then we have sort of a job where
conversation. Yep.
we sell someone some sort of financial product
Absolutely.
where we weren't technically considered a fiduciary.
Sure.
Where fiduciary is that we have to make a decision in the best financial interest of the person.
Correct.
That's not saying we didn't make the best financial decision, just saying that there's no legal obligation for us to do so.
Right.
We are selling a financial product.
Agreed.
Now, I think where this is getting at is that should there be stronger fiduciary laws, or should people have to be identified?
I want to clarify because we started almost on a slightly different tangent between consumer protection and fiduciary duty. I think they are two different things.
They are.
Financial advice and purchasing investments and things is a little bit different than purchasing some sort of consumer good. I think there's definitely room to grow on the consumer protection side for sure. There's a lot of shady stuff that happens out there. But on the, like, if you're going to go and invest in something and you listen to some advice that's like, put all your money in macaroni or something stupid like that, because macaroni is going up and you're a sane, rational person. There's no, you're not, you don't have any mental problems, or you're not, 17 or, something like that. Then you know what? If you make a stupid investment, that's your problem. Hopefully learn from it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of these articles are like, oh my God, they tricked grandma into buying a car. It's like, was your grandma legally competent with her own money?
Did your grandma take her own car or bus and drive to the dealership and then pay her own money to buy the car?
I think that's this specific story was where that's coming from. Is it's an older lady.
Yeah.
And that's what everyone's buying into.
I would like to think that by the time I'm 75 years old, I will still be in command of my mental faculties. Like, I want to be the guy who at 75 years old is to be like, no, sir, you're trying to scam me, and I'm not an idiot.
And if you can't, then you shouldn't be able to sign for that.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I mean, if you are unable to understand the transaction. Now, that being said,
hold on, before we change, and further to that, if you fault once, why are you doing it again a few days later?
Yeah. Yeah, like she went back to return the vehicle and bought another one.
Why are you
I would
making
love
that
to know
same mistake again?
I would love to know the conversation that happened between the salesman and that woman, because
the salesman just saw dollar signs.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'll hire him.
Come on.
Yeah, I'll hire him. I'll hire that guy. Shit.
There are things though that I like, as car sales is an example, if we want to latch onto that.
Sure.
Where I think there are interesting
aggressive,
like
granted.
It's very aggressive,
PDI and freight and extra taxes and stuff thrown on after with not the prices. I'm not a big fan of that.
Yeah.
Listen, at the end of the day, you're responsible for the paperwork that you're signing.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the sticker says. It doesn't matter what I tell you. Whatever it is that you're physically signing, you're responsible for understanding the terms and conditions.
Unless
Yeah,
you
but
are
you and I have done-
medically incompetent.
But you and I have done sales.
Assuming
We've had
it's a
people-
fair
we've got-
contract.
We've gotten people to sign stuff they have no idea what they're fucking signing.
Which they shouldn't sign it then. That's
Fair
really
enough.
simple
And
logic.
I get it, but there are things that for people who, and generally those people who are getting people signed, you're doing the best for them, right? But there are honest people out there, and those are the people that make the rest of the industry look bad. And sometimes it's nice to regulate the assholes.
In every industry, of course, there's people that will cut the corners and shave the corners.
And no amount of regulation will stop those people.
No, and
they will always
okay, yes,
find
There's
but-
always
a
going to
way
be
to-
charlatans.
But
yes.
there's
But the law always goes to the benefit of the consumer.
Yeah.
Which
So-
I don't think is necessarily a bad thing.
No,
if
and
it
I think
favors
that's a
the
great thing.
consumer.
I think that's
But
a great
at
thing.
some point, when there is a woman, let's say, who's going to a car dealership to return a vehicle, buys a second vehicle at the same place, like at some point, the law has to be like, lady, you crazy. Like, you are on the hook for what you signed.
Here's the first problem. As we as society, are we looking at this case going, woman?
or an old woman.
Well, I feel like this
are we
is less,
automatically making an assumption
This
that
is-
she's incapable
That's right.
of making the
That's
decision?
this is less about the fact she's a woman and more about the fact that she's elderly. Like, there's a lot of people who think that because you're elderly, inherently you are therefore vulnerable to being a victim. I don't think, I sincerely hope that is not the case.
So where's the problem? In society, in judging you that you're older and or a woman not able to make that decision? Or are we wrong in giving you that decision, allowing you that decision?
Both of those solutions to me are extremely unpalatable. The idea of
it's a
telling a
lose-lose.
75-year-old, a 70-year-old person, regardless of gender, that they're not capable of making a decision That really makes me uncomfortable for some reason. The idea of because I'll be 75 one day, I hope. And the idea of me being told by society at that point that I'm not capable
I
of
think
making a
Donald
decision,
Trump's that way. No, wait, that's not a
regardless-
good example.
Regardless
You
of
have
the
6
situation.
children. You'll be lucky to make it to your mid-50s.
There it is. Exactly, right?
In true Dutch fashion.
Yeah, exactly. We die out of spite. That's what it is, yeah.
Regardless of age, consumer protection should be there to protect the consumer. Period. End of story. Regardless.
But if a consumer
Very true.
signs...
But that there's so many extenuating circumstances. You can have a 75-year-old, a 77-year-old, a 25-year-old.
Yeah.
If you're gonna sign, if you have the ability, the legal ability to sign, and you sign, then you're responsible for those terms and conditions.
But there's
I can
another.
actually
But
relate
there's
to that
another.
personally.
hold on. Like it or not, you're responsible for those terms and conditions.
Yeah.
But there's another concept in law called the meeting of the minds.
Yes.
In that, if there's a clear understanding, like let's say from a judge, that if what you were signing clearly you did not think it meant one thing versus what the dealership.
Yeah.
There is a legal principle called meeting of the minds
There
that
is.
two people have to have an understanding. What
agreeable.
Too easy
meeting
to
means.
deny that, though. For
Agreeable,
someone to
but
say...
this case in particular, if your payment is $400 a month,
Yeah.
and the payment is $400 a month,
And
comes
you
out of your bank
signed
account,
that?
and you signed that, how do you question that? How do you
Well, I
say
agree.
that's
And
wrong?
I think too, like for example, like when's the last time that you upgraded a piece of software that had terms and conditions, right?
How many times have we all gotten spam
Yeah.
on something that we said, I didn't want this, I didn't agree to that, but it
you
was
did.
buried 10 pages
Or I hear
deep.
it-
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
or
It's something
in
that
my
you
in my
signed
daily
off on or
job, I
clicked
hear
on.
people like saying, "Oh, I got frauded on blah 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 blah," and the reality is that no, you signed up for a $1 trial.
Yep.
And you're being charged for it.
Or
now.
how many payments
Exactly.
do you get beyond
It's
this?
shady as shit. Don't get me wrong.
Cancel your
How
credit
many
card, get
payments
into one.
do you
It's done.
get beyond the 3 months or 6 months or 12 months introductory period?
Exactly. Like, I mean, those sorts of
It's
things
on
are...
you as the consumer.
So what's to be done?
Well, I feel like consumers need to, with respect, grow up. That's what needs to happen. Like, there's a lot of stuff that, like, I mean, you can legislate companies out of existence and still not solve this
Yes,
problem.
Okay. I need to intervene here though, because maybe it's a bit of my upbringing, but there is not the idea of financial literacy and the idea of what is a proper deal and what is not a deal and understanding how a deal works.
Yep.
That's not a universal language that everyone speaks. I grew up in a very poor area. I get that now.
Yeah.
But there's lots of family members and stuff and friends and family that I grew up with that don't understand it. And there's a reason consumer protection laws exist is to mitigate some of that. And it does help. And I don't want to address something on your earlier point. It can help business. Used cars is a perfect example. Used cars, no one wanted to buy a used car because no one trusted anyone anymore.
Right.
They put some consumer protection laws in, and people buy used cars now.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, it comes down to the purchase price.
yeah.
The higher the tag, the more you care.
Right.
Period. End of story. And as a consumer, the same laws apply.
Yeah.
But you, as an individual, tend to care more the more you're spending.
Sure.
If you're going to spend $100 versus $100,000, if you're going to finance $100 a month versus $1,000 a month, you're going to spend, as a whole, you're going to spend more time reading that paperwork. You're going to sit there and buy a house.
Perception of numbers has nothing to do with the actual number.
But it should.
to
No,
do
I
with the
think-
relation to the number. So $100 to somebody who makes no money has the same bearing as somebody who spends $150,000 on something. Who
I
makes a lot of
disagree
money.
because the individual.
Psychology will rebuff the shit out of you on it.
But how's a judge supposed to understand the psychology?
Right, so you're looking at
psychological
psychology.
state
Let's
when
talk
they're trying
the
to?
legal state here.
Yeah.
I mean, at
Your
some point you have to
$100
draw a line.
Your
And what the law
$100
is.
to my $100 is the exact same. Doesn't matter how much I do or don't have. Doesn't matter how much you do or don't have. We're still protected and abide by the exact same laws and protections. So you have the same mental capacity that I do if you're signing that line. The expectation is that you understand the same thing that you're signing that I'm signing.
But that's not how law works. Law protects
But
that,
does
but
how-
that
that
is
is
how
how
law
works.
works, and that is how it is perceived.
law protects the least common denominator in all situations. It protects
Not
the most.
necessarily.
No, it protects.
No.
It's designed to protect the most vulnerable. In Canadian law, that's the basic.
And the least vulnerable is the consumer, and we as consumers are the
most
same. Versus, doesn't matter how much your dollar versus my dollar.
Equality under the law, though, is supposed to be. It's not saying, "Oh, if you're vulnerable, you get more protections than the person."
Well, Canadian
actually,
law
it
does
does.
err that way,
Actually, it
unfortunately.
does.
It shouldn't,
no,
but
no,
it
saying
does.
where
It's a
it errs,
fundamental
but
tenet of
equality under the law.
Yeah.
No, equality under the law
You are
should be the
so-
principle.
Yeah,
You're
it
sort of
ought to be the principle.
misinterpreting how our law
Yeah.
works.
benefit,
But equality on the law, I agree that should be the principle, but it's not
We should be
because
all
you're right,
equal.
Josh.
We
There
should
are
all be
people
equal
who
under the
are
law.
considered more vulnerable who are given extra protection by the law to those who are not vulnerable, and I think that's wrong.
But that's a societal judge instead of the legal judge.
Sure. But a societal judge ultimately is the legal judge because the society dictates what law is. That's what we've decided.
On
now.
that note, we are out of time
Already?
for this episode. Already, right? And we're just getting going.
We are. And remember to check out our website at twoandchange.ca. Check out our blog. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter.
Special thanks to Matt Ebel, our contributing writer and editor. Anyway, for Two and Change, I'm Tim.
I'm Josh.
I'm Mike.
I'm not.
We'll see you next time.
And if you buy a Dodge, you deserve what you get. Just throwing that out there. Yeah.
Way to run to the ground.
Exactly. Yeah. As long as we're throwing it all out there. I drive a Honda. I drive two Hondas. We have a Honda.
I.e., you get what you pay
You
for.
get what you pay for.
Everyone knows a Fiat is a good deal.
Wait, but
what?
if I'm older and I turn my Dodge in, do I get my money back?
Yeah, exactly, right?
Oh.
If I spent $10,000 on a credit card, does I have to pay it back?
Not if you're
What do you mean if I had to pay it back? You told me that I had to pay it back.
understand what a credit card is.
I'm only 18 years old.
The views expressed in the following podcast contain neither medical advice. The views expressed in the following podcast contain neither medical advice nor financial advice.
Vaccinate your kids.
They do not reflect the views of our employers, spouses, friends, colleagues, or anyone claiming to represent us.
Ooh, invest in Big Project Investments Inc.
Try again.
Ooh, invest in Big Project Investments Inc.
Try again.
This is why we rehearse.
There you go.
Matt.
Oh, right. Invest in Bigfoot.
Wait till I'm done
Project
snapping, you idiot.
Why is it Matt? He's the fuck up.
You're like, why are we going to do this? Why are we record?
Fine though.
That's exactly my point. Record
This is
it.
why we have bloopers.
Invest in Bigfoot Project Investments Inc.